Good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. On Newsfile, we put Ghana first. This morning is a special edition dedicated to asking the need for and what exactly a new constitution review is up to. It would appear that democracies, particularly in Africa, need to be propped up because they are failing and military coups are becoming desirable. People have been applauding military takeovers. What exactly do we do with the Constitution again after the 2010 process that reviewed it and produced a 1,000-page document? There's a new team that has also been doing some work, of course, basing what they will do first on the Constitutional Review Commission's reports. We have them in the studio to ask the questions that must be asked. Are our governments poor and performing this abysmally because our constitutions have failed to provide the structures that will give us the dividends of democracy? But we will begin with brief commentary on the brazen vote buying in elections. In the last primaries of the NPP to elect their presidential candidate or flag bearer, it is now open secret that candidates paid monies. The monetization, are there laws to curb it? If they are, why are they not being enforced? And too many journalists have become subject of attacks. Media houses have been invaded by party thugs. How do we stop that? I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters.
Small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem. Oh. In the sun problem. Common light bulb set.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh, yeah. Then my chick to him, I know correct. Cry. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now, so stylish frames in the rock.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Osudangwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
The 7th edition of the prestigious Ghana Energy Awards is here. Theme: Ghana's Energy Transition Framework, Sector Institutions as Building Blocks for the 2030 to 2040 targets. Happening live on Friday, 17 November at the Labadi Beach Hotel, 6:30 p.m. Special guest of honor is His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. For tickets, sponsorship, or enquiries, call 030-394-0300 or 055-930-0631. Industry partners: Volta River Authority, We Power Authority, Ghana Gas, Well, Menergy Technology, Hope, Energy Commission, NPA, BOSS, JK Hongo, PURC, ECG, Gridco, Sunana Sogli, Seaboard, Petroleum Commission, WAC Chamber. Media partners: Joy FM, Graphic News Plus. Endorsement: Ministry of Energy, World Energy Council Ghana. Validation: Mazars Ghana and Caseley Brook Law Firm. Ghana Energy Awards, 7 years of redefining excellence.
Hi, my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Since inception, almost 100% of Ashesi University students have found jobs, started businesses, or gone on to graduate school within 6 months of graduation. From Accra to Nairobi, London to New York, Ashesi graduates are noticed and they are leading successful careers. If you dream of a rewarding life and career, an Ashesi education prepares you for just that. Learn more about applying to Ashesi at www.ashesi.edu.gh.
Save big to welcome the new season. Give your mansion a new look. Missy, get your house renovated. Doormaster Save Big promo is on. Our doors ranges from exterior and interior steel security door, bulletproof and armor door, wooden metal and panel door, glass and flash door. Edru Doormaster, the widest range of paint solution awaits you for your acrylic, emulsion, and animal paint. We also have in stock road marking paint, marine paint, waterproofing, damp-proof paint. Bathroom hall. More look fresh. Your luxurious toilet seat, basins, taps, on your latest vanities are Papa B. Visit the Doormaster. Promo ends on 15 December. Call 0542-745-222. Henmon office of Pobi Montobu. Accra Kumasi Highway. Obeye. Opposite the Forest Reserve. Sulunfianco. ACP. Opposite Besham Temple. Tema Community 5. At the Pajanchen Hua. And Sawamedua. Doormaster Saving promo is on. At the low.
With them, they are you. As I can introduce DBS Lifestyle Guest Trust. Emma, they say, baby, I say, Yama, minimum time, the day. And you know, you would dance. And no crow, no sending me a benina, and a papa. So DBS Lifestyle Guest Trust. They the computer not generated. Into Edna didn't go straight. And if you say, I am not guilty, then want to mean the enemy. And good answer, I feel finito. More musicians so done. More music factories. And as a dark is the piano. Me recommend DBS Trust Samamo. DBS Trust. Finito.
Joy 99.7 FM.
You're welcome Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. We're asking very simple questions on this special edition. Propping up a failing democracy. Fresh review of the Constitution. Is that the way to go? And we're looking also at eradicating, if that is even possible to do, the brazen monetization of elections. What is the role of law enforcement? Our democracy is hijacked and in danger as we continue to hear from the experts if the monetization does not stop. And the growing violence against journalists. The Minister for Information was in Parliament this week and spoke about it. Actually, the Information Ministry also organized a stakeholders conference, and the world covered it, about the growing impunity in violence against journalists. What is the role of the state and law enforcement? Kojo Nkrumah has some ideas. We'll test them, whether that is how to go. Now, my guest in the studio right now, Anthony Forson Jr. He's former president of the Ghana Bar Association, and he's a member of the Constitution Review Consultative Committee. Also here in the studio is Clara Berry Kasati. She is lecturer in law at the University of Ghana Law School and the chairperson of the Constitution Review Consultative Committee. Joining us via Zoom will be John Nwoza, who is a member of the Constitution Review Committee, Consultative Committee. He is an auditor. We also have Oliver Baka-Vomawo, researcher, and he worked tirelessly and in a central manner with the Constitution Review Commission that brought us this 1,000-page report on from a political to a developmental constitution, which recommendations are yet to be implemented, and this committee is also looking at. He's a reform advocate. His group, the Democracy Hub and Fix the Country, have been insistent on the need to overhaul the Constitution. Dr. Mame Mensah Bonsu, Mame Abena Mensah Bonsu. She is a constitutional theorist. She's associate professor at the Ashesi University. Joins us also via Zoom. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for making time this morning to join us.
Thank you.
Great. So let's begin with our preliminary. We'll spend the first 30 minutes looking at these matters that deserve some, examination, particularly with the caliber of people we have on the show. So we see how they can help with policy direction and how the nation should go about these matters. And as you are aware, the NPP has elected its standard bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is the vice president. It took a period of campaign, and it's become very open now that it is no more a secret that votes were bought. Well, they say that was TNT that was being given to people. Kenneth Japan gave 300 cedis per delegate. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's campaign also gave 400 cedis per delegate. So Ken would have spent averagely would have spent about 60 million Ghana cedis on the delegates, just for that, not the other campaign processes and the campaign before now. And in that case, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia would also have spent about 80 million Ghana cedis on this process. Some of the delegates were angry, and they spoke to the press because they had not received their monies, particularly from the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia camp in the Yensuano constituency. As we know now, a deputy minister for tourism, Marco Krekumante, has declared publicly, okay, he said it's secretly, but now it's public, that the money that was entrusted to his custody for distribution to these delegates. He has returned it back to chest. He doesn't want any problems. The people in charge of that constituency who were supposed to be in control of the campaign are also blaming one another. Let's listen to some of them.
As delegates, as we are going into election, they have some token for us. So we received Baumia's token, and then instead of kind people, his coordinators to give us, they refused. We were calling them since morning, 2 hours, they are coming, they never came. So we called from Accra to report them to the PA. The PA called the regional coordinator. The regional coordinator called them. Before they will come, they said they've sought the people out and given out the money already. So the rest of us, we are not entitled for anything.
To give me my money. And why you don't want me to come out to tell me whatever is going on? You have seized my money since they started the tour. Why? You kept my money. You are telling me that Mr. Aban has seized my money because I'm working for Kennedy Japan. Meanwhile, you are working for what do you call it, Baumia, but you came for me to collect the money from me. So why you don't want me to come out? My coordinator is Obosika. You have seized my money simply because you wanted me to support Baumia. I was at the Baumia camp. Baumia gave us money. This man seized the money because I came out for public to know whatever. She doesn't want me to, have my peace of mind.
But have you voted?
Yes.
Have you voted?
Yes.
But what's your issue now?
My issue now is since the candidate started the tour, my coordinator has seized my money, getting to 1,200 cedis. When we confront him, he said he is not going to give me the money until I will support his candidate. Meanwhile, I was in the same candidate with him.
Honorable Kensikano, Nipa Miensa, Akuchesikani, Nipa 17 or album. Nipa Miensa, I have one police station chairman, a friend of Fiabua. I provided the move 6,000 about the Koyi on Popon Topano for the 6,000 about. But I put the poor, now the same police station, and also the 7,000 smooth Yaman. And one your former deputy coordinator, and also Bia Codino, and also the Abba, Aka Rollins, yes, about the Rollins, or not the up to lakeside, and also this kind of journey. Until past 17, Nipa train, or much is getting in I am 1 city up till now. I have about 2 o'clock. Honorable Kensikani and Sankai. As a delegate, Yasi. As a delegate, 300 Ghana cities. Fabomia, 400 Ghana cities. If we are to do this, we are to do the Sankai. So far, Baumia, and Fanny. I then I'm moving to it. Now we just got 406. Oh, not the 1 year, Obia or your party in Bakeke. At Yama 300. That is moody. 8 years. 8 years. Oh, come on, this car. 408 years. I am paying for control and I'm almost saying. Constituency executives and my mom got to Aban, Yama almost saying,
let's also not be hypocritical. You go around to campaign, and people also leave whatever they are doing to make a sacrifice to meet you. At that time, I'm talking about the campaign time before I bring you to the election day. And at that time, the party had not even opined, the party had not properly settled that we are voting at this venue, the time and all that. So they were all conversing for vote. I leave whatever I'm doing to meet you at a distance, at a certain point of convergence. And when I'm leaving and you give me 100 cedis to support my going back, 200 cedis looking at the distance I'm coming from, I don't think that is bad. That is point number 1. Number 2, the nomination forms of the aspirant, it is stated that you must be resourceful. Either you have the resources or you must be resourceful for you to be able to help us as a party. These 2 candidates, in fact, these 4, these gentlemen, all signed up to it. Nobody runs a campaign from his pocket entirely. Not even Donald Trump could do it. And that is why all of them launched a fundraising form of activities. Kennedy Japan did, Dr. Baumia did, Priya Kuto did, Dynamite, almost all of them. So that FMFR Power is convinced that maybe Kwajopoku can be a good leader for us. Okay, maybe I'm chipping in my 500 cedis or 100 to support this journey of yours. Many of the funds that I know from Dr. Baumia's side was raised through many of these people coming together to help him. And I'll tell you what, sometimes you visit a constituency, and the constituency executives will tell you, oh, doctor, please thank this man for us. He's taking care of the food for all of us gathered here today. He's also proposing that where you and your team will lay your heads, he's paid for this, either guest house or hotel for people to pass a night.
Right. So you had some delegates from various places, ending with that very interesting delegate who says that Kenneth Japong is not in government. He's able to afford 300 per delegate. If you're in government for all this while and all you can afford to give the delegate is 400, that's an insult. You should be able to do more than that. So they have some expectations. And you heard Samia Uku, who is the head of the National Lotteries Authority and with the Baumia campaign. Now, let me get to my guests to have their views on this. Clara, it's been said many times that the monetization of elections is a big danger to our democracy. It's been difficult to talk about it in certain ways because the evidence was always not available in a manner like we have this time. What do you say?
Samson, I'm hesitant to say my frank opinions because I am not sure whether as a country we are ready to have that discussion. The reason being that, look, when it comes to legal framework, there is no doubt what the law says. I mean, if you corrupt a voter, if you give anything of value to someone to influence voting, both the recipient and the giver have committed an offense. Now, if you are going to prosecute, if you are going to enforce the law, I don't know if there will be anybody left standing in terms of politics today. And I always remember a curious thing. I have several friends who have contested for political office. So, of course, sometimes when they lose, you talk. And one of them was so bitter in saying that this provision has to be enforced so that his opponents can be arrested because they paid. When I asked him, he said, oh, they paid more than him. Now, so it means that he too paid. Yes. It's just that they paid more. So it's like if you really are not paying, then you are probably just contesting for contesting's sake, but you are not intending to contest to win. And what is even more worrying is now see the brazenness. People actually feel or believe that they are entitled to be paid. But then again, if we are just looking at them and condemning them as the bad nuts out, are we really addressing the issue? Let's look at the root cause of the problem. We've always been saying that we don't have values. The 1992 Constitution has its problems, which it does. We don't have national values. But the truth is that there are national values. If you look at the 1992 constitutions, the values are clear, which are liberty, equality of opportunity, prosperity, inclusion, respect for diversity, freedom and justice, accountability, rule of law, protection and preservation of human rights, unity of our nation, stability of our nation, sovereignty of the people, respect for our cultural heritage, friendship and peace with all the peoples of the world, democratic values. But what has political leadership since independence, or let me limit it to the Fourth Republic, what has political leadership envisaged? Rather than political leadership fostering these values among their followers, we have created a political narrative that political office is about getting access to a national cake. Of course. And then once we now get to the national cake, naturally everybody expects to have their share of the national cake. And we actually talk about it. That our share of the national cake, how do we get our share of the national cake? So political party supporters have come with this belief now that political party is about forming a group of people together to get access to the national cake, and then everybody can help themselves from the national cake. So that we now even look at when we say that you should be able to mobilize funds, nobody wants to talk about where the money is coming from. And come back to our expectations of politicians. If you want to contest political office, for example, your immediate family, your friends, your extended family, your in-laws, their in-laws, endless. All of them have expectations of you. wanting you to be able to give them financial assistance here, jobs there, contracts there. Well, if you are not able to do that, you are not worthy of political office. So we have created a political culture where to be worthy of political office has something to do with money, and nobody wants to do anything about the source of the money. So until we start questioning where is the money coming from, rather than praising people for getting money to do all kinds of things, and we don't know where the source of the money is coming from, we will have a problem. So the law is there, but for it to be enforced, it must be backed by a certain advocacy and a certain culture, so that at least eventually we can enforce the law. But as it stands now, I don't know if
you say source of the money. The Political Parties Act 2000 is very clear that the source of funding for a political party must be disclosed. They must render accounts, there must be audited accounts, they must indicate the source of the funds, they must indicate donations, and so on. And this is under the mandate of the Electoral Commission. The 6 months or so after elections, they're supposed to audit. So we have the systems there.
So, but what is the result of the supposed systems that we have? Maybe we have the legal framework there. Whether we have the system is another matter. I am not convinced we have the system. I am very convinced we have the legal framework. But as to whether we are doing it in accordance with the legal framework is another matter. Because as again I said, the issue of political party financing, yes, there's the Electoral Commission, but there is also the people's responsibility, including the media, as I said, that to stop praising people who give access to money as the ideal or the mark of a leadership. So unless, yes, we need enforcement, but we also need advocacy to realize that we should not encourage people to believe that being worthy of political office means that you must have goodies to share, so that people don't start demanding for goodies. And then when you give them the goodies, then they say that, everybody else is complaining except the one who got the goodies.
What should we be doing, Mr. Tony Forsing? And first message in here from Frank Anderson Jr. says, our democracy is a sham built around poverty and exploitation of ignorance. All the individuals speaking clearly show that they are only delegate for financial motives rather than building a principled, meritorious, and civilized democracy. A CDD survey brought us the results that you need at least, at the minimum, 100 million United States dollars to prosecute a successful presidential campaign. For an MP, you need about 4 million Ghana cedis.
Where do we start? It's a problem that we all admit. The evidence is clear now. It is not rumors anymore. But I think that it is, as Clara said, our own evolution as a people from independence through our military governments up till now. It is the view we've had of politics and the results of political office. Unfortunately, it has been turned upside down. I will use my own example to show you that it is doable, and it has been done in other countries. When I was contesting as for presidency of the bar, a group of very senior lawyers came together and assessed the situation and knew that, you know how we do ours. No protests, no inducements, nothing. You have to actually move to the lawyers individually and speak to them. So they said that, look, we are going to go around the country. So you will need some money, even if you have money, to prosecute this political, let's say, political agenda. So they rather contributed to the campaign effort because they knew that once I get to a place, there will be hotel bills, etc., etc. And so for my campaign, I think there were about 10 very senior lawyers. Everybody gave something like 7,000 Ghana cedis. And I didn't feel anything. Now, when I became president, They were also not expecting anything because, well, there was nothing to share. Indeed, when we were digitizing the Ghana Bar, 2 of the people who had, let's say, funded my campaign were interested. So I said, look, a committee has been set up to evaluate the bids. They put in their bids. They went. I think it was when they got about 5 ID companies, they were dropped. And that system was so transparent, they accepted that, yes, well, we didn't make it. And that was the end. You see, so I think that it is doable. One, I will blame the NCCE. If you look at their role under the Constitution, we've not been able to educate people to understand that political office is a trust office. So when somebody is in political office, he's actually your servant, as Mr. Kujato keeps saying. You see, but it's the reverse, that when somebody becomes an MP, honorable, we start even worshipping the very ground that the person treads on. So you see how it is skewed. Instead of the person actually serving you, he now lords it over you. Now, the signal that we are sending to those down there, that is the children, is that to become a leader, you have to pay your way through. So I hear now, even in university politics, in even secondary school elections, parents are even giving monies to lecturers and teachers, to ensure that their children get elected into office. So you see, the trend is there. So this person who has become a school prefect thinks that is how it is done. So he graduates to the university level. He believes that is the way it is done. How do you expect him when he is now going to be a district assembly member or a parliamentarian to do differently? So we've got it all wrong from the beginning. So I don't blame the politicians. I blame the people themselves. We say that the Constitution is a fundamental law of the land. What does Article 1 say? That the sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people. Now, who are politicians? They are the people. So we groom them, and we expect that all of a sudden, when they become political leaders, then they change. No. Look at the people who were speaking on the TV.
Yeah.
They saw absolutely nothing wrong. Why? Because they are not educated to understand. You find it queer. She finds it queer that how can somebody be saying these things? Some people even find it laughable that how can you be expecting these things? I have given money to my friends, my mates who are politicians, both NDC and NPP, because I believe that they are good material for the nation. And I don't expect them, whether they become ministers or MPs, to do anything for me because, one, my economy is stable. That is my personal economy, so I can't expect anything. But if my personal economy were not stable, then I will expect that, he would either find me a job or help my personal economy to be stable.
So you refer to the NCC and the work it has to do.
Right.
And we know the NCC is so underfunded. So underfunded. The Electoral Commission that organizes elections for us gets like 7, sometimes 100 times what the NCC gets for a whole year. The NCC is important because of the education they will give.
Absolutely.
Like you are dealing, when you were canvassing for votes, you go to lawyers.
Yes.
First thing is that you won't even want to try.
No.
First of all, it's not an expectation, but you even want to try to suggest to a lawyer that I want to give you money before you vote for me.
Yes.
There are lawyers, for example, when we're doing the conference in Kumasi, there are people who actually just fly to come to vote and go back.
Yes. At their expense.
Yes. So they are enlightened, so you can't pay them.
That's it.
So NCC is not funded.
Good.
How is he able to do this job?
So one, we've identified a first problem, education. So now we have free senior high school education with all its difficulties. Indeed, Mr. Kwekubu, who is our IT engineer, sat me down and said, look, Tony, don't expect the free SHS to yield results now. And he projected that in about 40 years, we'll start seeing the results of an educated population. So you see, Clara said that, yes, we have the legal framework, but the systems, so that's the difference. We have just started, how many, 5-6 years of free SHS. So these graduates will be churned out, they'll go through the university. So it will take a certain period to weed out the face of all these kind of people who are in the system. Two, one thing I think we can do to stem this flow is people should get interested in politics. At least, if you are a card-bearing member of the NDC or the NPP, if all card-bearing members were voting, I don't think this will happen.
All right.
Because then it becomes like a national election.
So one of your suggestions here is that they should expand the electoral college.
Yes, so every person...
To include every card-bearing member.
Exactly.
So that you can pay.
You can pay.
All right.
Then secondly, I've heard some people saying that, that was Mr. Ikwetu saying last week that people were saying the downside of that is that MPP people will infiltrate NDC, or NDC will infiltrate to choose a leader who will be, amenable to their cause. I said, okay, assuming that exists, do the elections the same day. So once you are an MPP card-bearing member, you go and vote, you are marked. You can't go voting elsewhere. So I think that once we expand that, the monetization will come down.
All right.
Because the economy hasn't changed.
Okay, let's go on the Zoom and hear from our other guest. And let me begin with Mame. What's your view from where you sit? How does this endanger the democracy, the monetization, and what should be done?
Thank you, Samson. I think the first thing that this demonstrates is the limits of the law. Like Clara said, the legal framework may exist, but at the heart of it, you're going to need the people to want it for it to work. There's only so much that the law can do. Now, these are people who went to go and choose their leader, and they chose money. How do they expect their leaders, when they come into office, to choose their welfare? They themselves did not choose their welfare. As my senior Tony Forson has said, there are economic factors there that have to be addressed. But at the heart of it, we have to understand that there's an unbreakable link between what the led accept, expect, and do, and what the leaders will do. If we are telling them that they have to pay us, we can't then turn around and say they are corrupt for paying us. So there must be some actual societal consensus that this is something we don't want. And I don't think we have that. We have, how many years has IOCO, SFO, I've forgotten they changed their name now, the OSP, the asset declaration regime? We can set up institutions and legislations until we are blue in the face. First of all, after all these years, have we checked to see if these institutions' workings has somehow led to a decline in corruption in the public services? What's the data? And beyond that, our instinctive response seems to be, let's set up a body. But from the delegates who spoke, what body can reach all of these people? So there are education concerns and there are financial concerns, but there's also a sheer lack of will somewhere. You mentioned the NCC is underfunded. Who chooses the funding of our bodies in this country? We somehow managed to pay emoluments to people who are leaving office, but we can't find the money to fund the institution that we have said should get on the ground and create the people we have said we want to be. Then it's a choice. That's who we want to be. We want to be a corrupt society. So that's what we are. At some level, the agreement is going to break down if the people aren't willing to do their choice. If you can get qualified people to sit down and decide what the president should take as an ex gratia package for work he was paid for, but you can't find a parliament to insist that the NCC's budget is too small, and the NCC and its commissioners are not making any public case whatsoever for what their job is and how they can get it done properly, then we have an agreement that we will pretend that we care. And that's the problem that we have with monetization. I wanted to comment on Samia Uku's statement that supporting transport is necessary.
The party, Doc, the party actually gave each delegate 50 Ghana cedis.
I know. I know. So that's why I wanted to respond to that comment. I agree with him that particularly given the economic circumstances of the majority of delegates, that it makes sense for their transport to be supported, but supported by the person or the institution that is hiring them. It is not the individual candidates they are there to work for. They are delegates of the party. So if there is any transport support that ought to be given, it is of transport from the party by the party's official sources. If the individual candidates see that the party is going to need support in meeting that obligation, as Tony Forson's friends supported his campaign, so the candidates should support their party by putting that money into the party's coffers so that it's distributed through the official party's channels. That they each go around and give money individually is not a statement that we are supporting transport because it is expensive for delegates. And delegates also should have a clear understanding of what they're doing there. This is not their paid service. This is part of their, perhaps, if you will, national service. They're choosing our leaders. If they don't want to do so, they shouldn't. But it should not be a service for which we become indebted to pay market value. I think when we agree that we want to change the way we do our politics, we will. We simply haven't, because it benefits some people at this point to do it this way.
Right. There are those who have been asking, what is the OSP doing? Because it's been charged with this mandate, because we knew that an attorney general will not prosecute their own people. You needed an OSP that will be independent and separate from the party structure so that they can deal with these. So people are asking. Presently, there's an assembly. There's a prosecution ongoing by the OSP because a certain man who wanted office as an assembly DCE went paying money. And the OSP Somoto got into the thing, invited him for questioning, and went ahead to prosecute him. I'm reading the Political Parties Act 2000, Section 17. It says, every political party shall elect such persons as may be determined by the members of the party as executive officers of the party. The election of the national, regional, and constituency executive officers of every political party shall be conducted under the supervision of the commission, the Electoral Commission. The law defines executive officers for a political party to mean, that is Section 33, the national chairman, the leader, the general secretary, or equivalent designation, the national treasurer, and the other members of the National Executive Committee of the party. I read this because the debate is coming up that the OSP may not have power to prosecute where it is an internal election. It is when it is a public election, as expected under the Representation of the People Law 1992, that the OSP can prosecute. So if it's an internal one, the OSP cannot prosecute. In the Representation of the People Law, Section 34, treating, it says a person commits the offense of treating if he is corruptly, either himself or through another person, before, during, or after an election, gives or provides or pays wholly or in part the expenses of giving or providing meat, drink, entertainment, or provision to or for any person for the purposes of corruptly influencing that person or another person to vote or refrain from voting, or on account of that person or another person having voted or refrained from voting, or being about to vote or refrain from voting, if he corruptly accepts or takes any meat, drink, entertainment, or provision offered in the circumstances and for the purposes mentioned in paragraph A of this section. It also has provisions about undue influence, which says if you do it either directly or indirectly, you will be guilty of an offense. And the penalty is about 6,000 Ghana cedis minimum fine, or 3 years imprisonment minimum fine, or both. And then you are prohibited from voting for 5 years. But here is the catch. You need the consent of the Attorney General to prosecute such offenses, according to Article Section 42 of that Act. What do you say?
I'm going to start with the debate that the OSP doesn't have jurisdiction to prosecute this matter because it's an internal party matter. The first thing I'd like to note is there's nothing private about a political party. Nothing. It is a public body serving a public purpose. When they go and choose their candidate, then the reason it is limited to the members of the party is because it is a group of people who have subscribed to one of the options and who want to push that as the society's direction. But it is not their private birthday party. A political party, by definition, is a public institution. We don't have any control over how people fund their birthday parties. There's a reason we talk about how political parties are funded and how political parties operate, because they serve a public function. So by virtue of them being a public entity, every institution that has supervisory control over public entities has jurisdiction over them. So if the OSP were minded to, it should be no bar to him that it is an internal matter of a public body. But even if we were going to, concede that argument, if you spend 80 million CDs trying to get people to vote for you, I think that figure qualifies as an organized or economic crime. So I think that if nobody else has jurisdiction, IOCO should. Because people are hauled before IOCO for much smaller sums.
Right.
If that is what you're saying, then we have organized lots of duplicitous institutions because we like bodies. So we have lots of bodies. It falls in the jurisdiction of one of them.
Thank you very much. Actually, in Yebi and Avalifo, the Republic, which went to the Supreme Court in 2000, the Supreme Court said the stealing of monies belonging to a political party is a crime against public interests. So maybe the OSP will want to look at this if he feels that it is not sufficiently clothed with jurisdiction to proceed. Now, Oliver.
Just before you move on, can I make a quick comment on the national cake analogy? Because it's a
okay, go ahead.
Interests me.
Go ahead, Mami.
I want us to think about the idea of a cake. What is a cake and what is it for? Right? There's no such thing as growing a cake. We eat it. Yes. We cut it up. We disappear it completely. Now, when you go to a function and they're going to cut the cake, nobody at the function asks, where did the ingredients of the cake come from? How are we going to rebake this cake? The point I'm making here is that the way we think about our nation is predatory. We think of a national cake, it means we think we are going to eat it up. Yes. So if we finish the cake, we will have nothing left. And as long as we think of our country as something to be consumed, we're going to get nothing more than what we have now.
All right. Oliver, there's a message from one of our viewers who says, it all comes from our culture. You don't visit the chief if you don't offer something to start with. What do you say?
Well, I think that many countries across the world have mechanisms for gift giving. You don't go to a wedding without trying to bring something for the bride. You don't go to a dinner invitation without holding a bottle of wine. Those are not invitations or analogies we can create that incentivizes, by some extension, corruption at the polls. I understand that there are certain things that are culturally that we do that shows our humanity and communitarianism. It is not an invitation as a society to be corrupt as the way in which we proceed and do things. There's a reason why for long periods of time, going to a chief's house, for instance, and bringing a token is a valued part of our culture. Nobody thinks of it as influencing the chief to take a particular decision in their favor or against them. So I understand the need to find where is this problem coming from, but I don't think that I want to offer our culture on the slaughter board as justifying corrupt conduct. The truth is we've created a system, or the people of this country clamored for a system that secures for all of us the best of our talents. But those to whom we have entrusted the democracy have created a system where it's the candidate's wallet rather than the merit of the ideas that elevates them into leadership. It's a problem. But there's no denying that when you have created a particular dysfunctional system, jumping becomes the order of the day. So when you think about the Lands Commission, you think about any institution where you want to be able to procure a service, if the system is dysfunctional, people want to pay their way to get in and queue jump. The same idea and analogy applies to democracy writ large. So for instance, when Senior Anthony Forson was talking, he talked about the Ghana by-election on a micro level. He said that the personal situation of a lot of the people in there made it such that the idea of paying them was not contemplatable. But when you have a societal problem where the vast majority of people are poor, and the candidates themselves know that they will get away with it and they can pay their way off, it becomes then ingrained institutional expectation that they will get this. But I don't think that it is coming from the people. People make all demands of people all the time. But if we have created a system which says that when those demands are made of you, you don't respond to them. You don't say, the people or the devil made me do it. That is not an argument that we have ever accepted in our society, much less for people. So that's kind of my view on it. Now, if we had a system, for instance, in terms of even lawmaking, and we said that any candidate or host candidate on behalf of the candidate, money was offered to other persons, will be automatically disqualified. I think that the candidates themselves will check each other because they would want to get the other person disqualified, that they would plan their own people to see whether or not they are giving money to the other side. You have to be able to use people's greed against themselves for the system to work. And that's one of the things that we have to be able to contemplate how we fix it. One of the things that I find peculiar, though, about when there's abuse of law and power from those who are in positions of power, it's almost as if there's an inherent consensus to look the other way. And we have experienced this. When Mr. John's funeral, for instance, happened, and the president and his entourage, the vice president, the chief justice, and high persons within our society flouted rules that they were making themselves, unconstitutional as they were enforcing them on our citizens. And this happened. We went to the police, we reported this incident. After a few months, the police told us that we have lost the complaint you brought. We sent that complaint 3 times to the Ghana Police Service. In all interviews we had, the media approach was, but is it realistic that these people will be punished? And if the tone is that it is not realistic for those in power when they violate the law to be punished, then there's no way out of it. It will, obviously, they know that when you pay us the money, nothing will happen.
Well, you took the view that those laws in the first place were unconstitutional, and you went to the Supreme Court and you were successful. They declared that those COVID-19 imposition of restriction laws were unconstitutional. They struck it off. Not to divert, your solution is that there should be some new laws in addition to what we already have. Already there's been the advocacy that the law should be amended to as it were, directly and explicitly catch these situations. The OSP, for example, an NDC NDC parliamentary candidate was splashing money during their primaries. They took that person in and they are investigating to prosecute that person. They seem to suggest that the current regime is sufficient. They can use that to prosecute these offenses. But you are suggesting that we should do an extra work, correct?
Yes, I think that for me, the truth is that a lot of our problems come from the refusal of institutions to enforce the laws they have. But it is also not an invitation for us who are thinking through the process to throw our arms in the air and say that there's nothing that can be done. That we must always continue to rethink through law and the better ways in which it can catch conduct where language is always being found to evade that process. Now, one of the things I also want to make clear, and I don't want in any way, shape or form to valorize what happens at the Ghana bar level as that being the gold standard. The truth is that there's no declarative system for when people have contributed to your campaign to disclose, because those empower a candidate better in different ways. That even if The two candidates before who have contested for the Ghana Bar president, for instance, and one receives monies or whatever it is for political parties, and the other person doesn't receive it. Voters are entitled to know who is receiving what, and there has to be a disclosure process that doesn't exist. That's some of the campaign finance reform that we're talking about at the national level as well. In addition to that, some of the people who are providing language to justify what is happening. The gentleman who you were, the MVP Samir, he's a lawyer. The persons who are having the conversation about why we should normalize this, there are lawyers in the forefront of that conversation as well. And sometimes I continue to insist that the mother institution, the Ghana Bar Association, needs to also continue to make its voice clearer as to where its stance is. But if everybody does looking, as the generation says, then obviously the problem will continue to persist and then it becomes larger.
All right.
There's no denying that as years have gone on, the problem has become worse and even more brazen.
Okay, so we will quickly just take 2 minutes comments each on this next issue, then we zero in or focus on our major discussion for this morning. Thank you very much for keeping your dials on Joy 99.7 FM and our affiliates across the country, and keeping your television sets locked here. We know the millions of you who watch from home and abroad, you want us to canvass these issues for you in a manner that will inform policy and also get those who are not doing what must be done to be done. Frederick is a lawyer. He says that the monetization of our national politics is unfortunate. Now it is no longer ideas and conviction, but materiality and who has it. No wonder we are where we are. And because of poverty, delegates will accept the fight over 400 and 300 Ghana cedis. So in that constituency, the delegates were saying that the executives were accusing each other that because they didn't take the vice president's money to the people early enough, some of them went to vote for Ken because Ken had paid a day before the election, and the party executives were holding the money, waiting to pay on the day of the election. They didn't understand what was going on. He says, I agree with Senior Tony Forson. It actually goes beyond senior high school. My class 5 daughter's school has elections of their school prefect, and people were campaigning and sharing pencils. Oh, really? I'll be frank with you that when Tony Forson mentioned it, I cringed and I didn't think that it's even, conceivable. Really? He says one contestant actually said in the campaign that when elected, she would change the canteen menu. Where did she learn that from? As they say, Asembeba. Frederick sending us this from Lakeside. One more message, and this is from Alhaj Suleiman. He says, if just two politicians collectively or cumulatively spent about 140 million on election primary, yet 19 people have died because they could not have access to the renal unit of Kolebu, which was closed down due to a paltry 4 million Ghana cedis, then our people must begin to see the price to pay for corruption is that it takes away your health, your education, and your future. By making elections so expensive, you are asking the politicians to steal and hoard your monies so that they turn around and give pittance out of it to you in order to control you. Unfortunately, this is happening at our universities during SRC elections. You're also confirming what Tony Forson said earlier. And in fact, there's this NPP member of parliament, Alfred Obeng. He told delegates that there's someone who is seeking to contest him, and he wants those who are seeking to contest him to know upfront that he has kept some dollars there and is going to pay the delegates so they can't outdo him. This is public, and we have actually shared those messages. The party has not felt anything to reprimand him or do anything to him. He said if they pay even 10,000, he would do twice that per delegate. And he said he had kept that money there, and actually expressed that he kept the money in dollars so he can keep the value. against depreciation. This is where we are. Let's go quickly for this one, and I'm going to hold my guests to 2 minutes each, because we need to come back to the bigger picture of what needs to be done to the Constitution to better organize our society. Let's listen to Kojo Oponkroma on the attacks on journalists, which he says is becoming just too much.
The phenomenon of attacks and intimidation of journalists is gaining notoriety in our republic. Data available to the Ministry of Information suggests that the trend is ascending. Increasingly, various actors in our society, state actors, non-state actors, political party operatives, assigns of businesses, and everyday citizens are resorting to attacks and intimidation of journalists as a means of expressing their displeasure. In the matter of investigation, the office was instrumental in investigating the attack on a CTFM journalist, Mr. Caleb Kuda. The report by the office determined that the handling of Mr. Kuda was excessive and unprofessional. Subsequently, the National Security Ministry dissolved the SWAT teams that operated under it and returned officers to their mother agencies. Other incidents of reported attacks on journalists have also been investigated by the office, with findings conveyed to security and prosecutorial agencies for action. Mr. Speaker, under the function of accountability, the mechanism has not been very successful, I regret to say. The need to hold the investigative, prosecutorial, and judicial agencies accountable for the incidents reported to them cannot be overemphasized. Holding the judiciary and prosecution accountable on a sustained basis must be the norm.
And the Minister for Information got the support of other members from both divide of the House that there needed to be something serious to be done. And they said we should hold the police and the judiciary, to some account. I don't know how exactly that may contribute, but let's see what you think. This time beginning with Tony Forsing. And a friend sends me a message. He says, my 10-year-old son was campaigning to be leader of his school's activities club. His school's activity club. Other students distributed toffees and candy. He lost. They won. So, to journalists.
These attacks are just unfortunate.
So the minister started what he set up and called the coordinated mechanism for the safety of journalists. He started it after the murder of Ahmed Suale, and between February and May 2018, 2019, about 17 journalists have been attacked. Not verbally, physically attacked. Some had been maimed.
Well, I think that these are some of the remnants of our political past, that anybody who attempts to speak against the system is seen as an enemy. And this didn't start today. It started way back from the military era. And people are still in the system who still believe that, notwithstanding the provisions in the Constitution, a person in authority cannot be spoken against. All the dictates are there. I always go back to Clara's definition that the legal framework is there, but the systems, that's where the problem is. So a person trained to be a journalist, he's taught all the nuances of journalism, but the moment he starts actualizing his craft, you get people telling, look, don't speak against this thing. This one, nobody speaks against it. Then you see, it erodes from the training that he has. So I'll go to what Mami said. He said the people should want it. The question is, do the people want it? And who are the people? We are the people. The pastors. If somebody commits an offense, a criminal offense, you get pastors speaking to police officers. Right. Now, a police officer who is spoken to by his pastor, by the nature of the relationship, it breaks his resolve to enforce the law. So that is where the problem is totally systemic. So you see, the framework is there, but the system is not operating well. So we are to blame. It's so basic. We shouldn't pretend it does not exist.
Clara.
And before Clara comes, in psychology, we have something called self-preservation. Everybody wants to preserve himself. So if a person looks at the system and sees that the system is such that if you speak up, you'll be victimized, what happens? The person preserves himself.
Right, and he's done less than 2 minutes. And the sad thing about it is that the Media Foundation for West Africa has been chronicling these abuses, attacks, and almost always those who top the lists are security agencies. They are the ones who are most in perpetrating the abuse.
Okay. Thank you, Samson. Permit me to use 30 seconds to comment on the previous issue.
Okay.
The issue about what do delegates think they are doing. Delegates know exactly what they are doing. Delegates are choosing someone that they are going to give access to a cake, to go and eat a cake. So they are just asking for their share of the cake. And another term we use is winner takes all. What does the winner take? So it comes back to our belief system and value system when it comes to political office, and the fact that political leadership has a responsibility, including the media and all of us, to do the education right. Now, when it comes to the issue of the journalists, I get the point that yes, we have to hold the police and then the judiciary accountable. My questions are: one, were prosecutions made? If prosecutions were made, were there sentences? If the sentences were too less, did the judges pass sentences that were outside of the law? Or they passed sentences that were within the law? And then we come back, when it wasn't satisfactory, what have media houses been doing? Because these journalists, a lot of them work for media houses. So what are media houses doing? What of the GJA? The organization that is supposed to come out to protect the interests of journalists, what is the GJA doing? And what is the NMC doing? Because under the Constitution, the NMC also has the responsibility to promote and ensure the freedom and the independence of the media. We are not the independence of the media largely, but what of the freedom? Because once there is violence against journalists, we cannot say that there is freedom for journalists to do the work that they are supposed to do. And it is the NMC's constitutional obligation to ensure that the freedom has been doing. The freedom is given to journalists to be able to go about their work freely. So it comes back to what Senior Forson was saying about self-preservation and what we really want. Is it rhetoric? We can talk and just make cases. Personally, I didn't expect the Minister for Information to be telling us what we should be doing, but I expected to be informed on what is being done and how far we have gone in doing the things that we have done to secure protection so that this doesn't happen. Unless we really go into steps and minimize the speeches and give more reports of what is happening. Yes, people, like Senior said, people see these political parties as giving them access to personal goodies. So when you speak out against their political party, they think you are a stumbling block to their personal interest.
Okay.
And then they see you as an enemy. So we have to come back to the institutions that have the responsibility and ask them to report on how they are carrying out that responsibility.
Thank you very much. Yes.
In the name of God, I beg you, kindly read Article 41 to the country at large.
Article 41.
Duties of a citizen.
Yes, it's one of my
hallelujah.
The articles that I love reading and sharing.
Yes.
And it's
this should be drummed. I believe, like we used to have the pledge.
Right.
This should have been said by every media institution.
Article 41 says the exercise and enjoyment of rights and freedoms is inseparable from the performance of duties and obligations, and accordingly, it shall be the duty of every citizen to promote the prestige and good name of Ghana and respect the symbols of the nation, to uphold and defend the Constitution and the law, to foster national unity and live in harmony with others, to respect the rights, freedoms, and legitimate interests of others, and generally to refrain from doing acts detrimental to the welfare of other persons, to work conscientiously in his lawfully chosen occupation. The one that we often pick and forget the rest is F, to protect and preserve public property and expose and combat misuse and waste of public funds and property, to contribute to the well-being of the community where that citizen lives, to defend Ghana and render national service when necessary, to cooperate with lawful agencies in the maintenance of law and order, to declare his income honestly to the appropriate and lawful agencies and to satisfy all tax obligations, and finally, to protect and safeguard their environments. Galamsey should not be here.
Everybody should look in the mirror and ask himself these questions. That, am I doing what the Constitution, which I believe is the fundamental law of the land, says I should do? And everybody should score himself. And we will know where we are as a country.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Oliver, 2 minutes. The matter of protection of journalists because of the growing abuse, assault.
First of all, I think for me it is important that the Minister for Information spoke in the manner in which he spoke. I think it's the right signals that we need to be sending, even at the highest level, that there's a journalist in government, and that he must always remember the duty that he owes to that community as well in the position that he stays in. I remember his comments as well when the City FM incident happened, that he was categorical that security institutions should not conduct themselves in this manner, vis-a-vis anybody or journalist for that matter. But for 2 years, myself and folks within the country pursued this matter. For 2 years, we continued on right to information request, and eventually this year, the Right to Information Commission fined the National Security Minister and ordered that the information be released. So this day, in respect of that Kalekuda matter, it hasn't been done, no fine has been paid. This is what Article 41, as the duties of a citizen, is pitted against every day when citizens see. Because citizens see that when they take those initiatives, it hasn't bound anywhere. And like John Fossey was saying earlier, self-preservation, in the face of self-preservation, people will choose self-preservation. And protecting public property, considering the country mobilized individuals, homeless people, about settlement, which we've talked about for years, almost 8 years now. The police went there, shot at mothers and children, and they ran helter-skelter. That's what citizens were doing in accordance with their duty to protect private property. So I think that there shouldn't be a disconnect when we're calling on persons. So I don't think that anybody is going to choose the duty to act upon these duties when they receive no protection, when they have to do these things. But the question of journalists, I think the right tone is being struck. And institutionally as well, particularly for the Ministry of Information, if this is a voice that he wants to champion, holding persons within cabinet responsible for this conduct, it's important to show leadership for people to believe that they can act and that this would amount somewhere.
He's concerned that prosecutions are mounted and we hardly hear anything about them. And even when they end, you know, the fines or the sanctions are so not deterrent. And I've done a good number of the cases against journalists. And some of the time the prosecution, it fails or it is botched. And then we do a civil one and then we win the civil case. But the amount of damages that is giving is nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I think particularly on the civil front and in terms of the damages as well, it's a general problem, and I'm wondering about the conservatism of our courts regarding this issue. I know that recently the Supreme Court has talked about of this very issue, that they have to evolve, particularly in terms of civil liability, to show that we are valuing people. Somebody would die and the court says that, no, why did you give the person 200,000 cedis, less than $20,000 for the life? And the court will slash that down, saying that it is too much. And I'm worrying to myself, is a life less than $20,000 in this republic? On the question of the prosecution side, we have to agree that a lot of the delay, a lot of the frustration, and a lot of them not moving forward comes from the state, which is again the executive, rather than the judiciary in these issues a lot of the times for criminal prosecution. And I have seen so many instances where the prosecution is refusing to do its job. in these matters. The very few instances where the vast majority of times when criminal cases are delayed, they are delayed at the instance of the state rather than the courts themselves.
Okay.
So that's also something that it has to come from the executive.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Mame Mensah-Bonsu, what do you say? Please unmute your mic.
My apologies.
Good.
I said I disagree with Oliver that the minister's speech served any useful purpose. To me, it looked like the government joining the demonstration against the government. What's with the passive voice? We must hold, these people must be held accountable. X and Y must happen. Who must make it happen? You are the government. Prosecutions are botched. By who? The Attorney General's office. This is a minister of the government saying the government is doing a bad job of protecting journalists, and it is bad. The people must be unhappy. This is what I expect the demonstrators to say. Like Clara, I was expecting the minister to tell me what they have done. The SWAT team that was disbanded, the officers were returned to their home units. Returned to their home units.
Yeah.
That's the solution. The people have committed a crime against the citizenry and are making it difficult for the citizenry to stand up and obey Article 41. And the state's response is send them back to their home units so they can do it. Now we are dispersing them. So there's one agent in every institution to increase the impact on the ground, or what? I don't understand. So for me, the minister's speech was completely useless. I don't like people sympathizing with me about a problem that they have created for me. So that if the government is serious about its position on journalists, it is our instrument, the people's instrument for acting on it is the executive. It should go ahead and do its job.
There have been complaints that our press freedom index has continued to go down. We are doing really badly, and the government needed to do something about it. And so if a coordinated mechanism is set up at the Information Ministry, through the Information Ministry at the NMC, and the minister is taking the front role to sort of coalesce all of us to help, is that bad?
The minister should, the speech he made, he should have made it in cabinet. And then after he's made the speech, the cabinet minister should have responded to a way and sat down and come up with an action plan for this coordinated mechanism that includes all of the ministers whose portfolio these institutions fall under. And they should have come up with a plan from within government. When he speaks to the people, it's not a Chogwe moment. When he speaks to the people, he's coming to tell us how he's doing his job, how the government is doing its job. Who is the subject in the passive voice statements that government officials make when they say things like the people should, the people who are responsible for it should be held accountable? By who? Who is running the police forces? Who's running the security forces? Who are these people we must go to hold the forces accountable? So I didn't find it useful. It's nice. It sounds nice, but it's just, the person slapping me telling me how bad it is that I'm getting slapped.
Thank you. Mame Abena S. Mensah-Bonsu is a constitutional theorist and associate professor at Ashesi University. Clara Bieri-Kaseti is chairperson of the CRCC, that's the Constitution Review Consultative Committee. Sorry. Oliver, she's also a teacher. She lectures at the University of Ghana Law School. Oliver Bakavomawo is a researcher. He's a lawyer. Was a researcher with the CRC, Constitution Review Commission, and is a reform advocate. Anthony Forsing Jr. is former president of the Ghana Bar Association. He's a member of the CRCC. Joining us shortly will be John Ewoza, who is member of the CRCC. He is an auditor. We'll be right back to answer the question, the way forward in propping up a failing democracy is a fresh review of the Constitution. Is it? We'll be right back.
Oh, Charlie, close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem. In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh yeah, then my chick to him, I know correct. Cry. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now so stylish frames in the wrong.
We go Robert and Sons right there. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudankwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
The 7th edition of the prestigious Ghana Energy Awards is here. Ghana's Energy Transition Framework sector institutions as building blocks for the 2030 to 2040 targets. Happening live on Friday, 17 November at the Labadi Beach Hotel, 6:30 p.m. Special guest of honor is His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. For tickets, sponsorship, or enquiries, call 030-394-0300 or 055-930-0631. Industry partners: Volta River Authority, We Power Authority, Ghana Gas, Well, Menergy Technology, COPE, Energy Commission, NPA, BOSS, JK Hongo, PURC, ECG, Gridco, Sunana Soti, Seaport, Petroleum Commission, WAC Chamber. Media partners: Joy FM, Graphic News Plus. Endorsement: Ministry of Energy, World Energy Council Ghana. Validation: Mazars Ghana and Caseley Brook Law Firm. Ghana Energy Awards, 7 years of redefining excellence.
My way insurance, my way,
Hi, my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policy holder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Save big to welcome the new season. Give your mansion a new look. Messi, get your house renovated. Doormaster Save Big promo is on. Our doors ranges from exterior and interior steel security door, bulletproof and armor door, wooden metal and panel door, glass and flash door. Edu Doormaster, the widest range of paint solution awaits you for your acrylic, emulsion, and animal paint. We also have in stock road marking paint, marine paint, waterproofing, damp-proof paint, Sisawo bathroom hall. More look fresh. Your luxurious toilet seat, basins, taps, on your latest vanities are purple B. Visit the Doormaster. Promo ends on 15 December. Call 0542-745-222. Henmon office of Pobi Montobu, Accra Kumasi Highway, Obeye, opposite the Forest Reserve, Sulunfianco, ACP, opposite Besham Temple, Tema Community 5, at the Pajanchenwa, and Sawamedua. Doormaster Save Big promo is on. At the low.
As the 2024 election beckons, Ghana needs a tight monetary and fiscal policy regime as prescribed by the IMF. The country is at a crossroads once again. What are the needed tax reforms to address revenue shortfalls as against a tight expenditure in an IMF program? Join us on the Joy Business Economic Forum pre-budget edition on the theme, the 2024 budget, maintaining a tight fiscal policy and a business-friendly environment in an election year. Speakers are Professor John Gachi, Dean, School of Business, University of Cape Coast, Dr. Japoma Jekedako, Economist and Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Humphrey Iyimdake, President, Association of Ghana Industries, Joseph Obeng, President, Ghana Union of Traders Association, and Mark Bedu-Abuaje, Chief Executive, Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Date is Monday, 13th of November, 2023. Time 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The program will be live on your Joy News channel and Joy FM and all Joy Business socials. The pre-budget forum is powered by Joy Business with support from Joy FM and Joy News.
regardless of what school you went to, regardless of where you are in the economy, please come, let's have this conversation. It's at the British Council Hall on Thursday, the 16th of November, and it starts at 6 p.m. sharp. So please come at 5 o'clock, come meet, come greet, come network, and let's start this conversation at 6 p.m. sharp. I look forward to seeing you there.
Definitely, after 16 years of operating a constitution, especially since both the major political parties in our country have had an opportunity to work it, there are several matters that have come up for discussion. And my way forward is that those issues, we will put a constitutional review commission in place very soon after taking office to go around the country collecting the views of our people to see how strong is this demand for reform. There are matters that all of us know about. Ministers in Parliament, should they come from Parliament? The powers of the Attorney General, should they be separated? The issue as to whether or not we should have a Prime Minister rather than a Vice President, like many of our neighbors do. The term of the President has come up. Is 4 years the ideal term for us, or are we talking 5 years? We've got the question of the election of district chief executives. Is that something that we want to see, or we want to have them appointed? These are some of the issues. We're talking, for instance, also about the creation of regions. We have at the moment very stringent provisions for creating more regions. Should we have looser provisions? I think these are the matters that the Constitutional Review Commission will take before our people. And if the answer is in the affirmative, that yes, there is a widespread demand out there, then to initiate the processes in the Constitution for amending the Constitution.
Indeed, any president appoints more than 5,000 officers into public office. They are still counting. Certainly, Professor Chairman, is a monarch that the Constitution has created. The rest of us citizens hold him in awe, and even when he strays, it is difficult to talk straight to him. This arrangement needs to be revisited. It cannot be good for our growth. It cannot be good for the growth of democracy. The country needs a head of state and government. Therefore, agreeably and understandably, at any given time, we shall have a president or prime minister. However, there is an empirical study conducted by the World Bank which suggests that small unitary countries are better served with prime ministers as heads of state other than presidents. A president has the whole country as his constituency, whereas a prime minister operates from his or her own small cell. When the parliamentary leader wins and his party wins majority of seats in parliament, he becomes the prime minister. His campaign purse is small as compared to the president's campaign wardrobe. Of late, electioneering campaign funds of contestants at every level of political arrangements has been escalating. The campaign funds of parliamentary candidates from primaries to national elections is averaging $600,000. $600,000. That is according to the research conducted by CDD in respect of the events culminating in the 2020 elections. $600,000. If we are converting it to cedis now, it will be 4.8 million Ghana cedis to elect a member of parliament into office. Now, if you elect such a person into office, he or she is not a Father Christmas. To make him a minister, what do you think will happen? And as a nation, we turn around, we say we want to combat corruption. How do you combat corruption when we do this to ourselves? Mr. Chairman, that amount is huge. We are yet to begin the counting of votes in the lead up to the 2024 elections. The campaign pairs of a presidential candidate from party primaries to the national elections by any proper reckoning and accounting cannot be less than the equivalent of 50 million United States dollars. How much does that translate to? 50 million. Over 400 million. Where do the candidates have the monies from? There is a nexus between huge campaign expenditure and corruption through the award of contracts. What therefore should be our preference pursuant to good governance? As a nation, we must confront this. Do we need this expensive structure of government in the president, or a much lesser evil in the form of a prime minister who is as well much more accessible and accountable to the representatives of the people? We have a choice.
The Majority Leader Che Mensabuso delivering a lecture on the need for the review of the Constitution. He came up with ideas that people say will go to such a drastic review of the Constitution. And earlier you heard the President when he was at the IEA platform ahead of his first term when he won the elections, talking about the fact that when he came into power, if he came into power, he would check the views of Ghanaians and then set up a process to begin the review process. Well, before that, we had already done a constitution review headed by Professor, how am I forgetting his name? Albert Fiajo led Constitution Review Commission, who produced this 1,000-page document for us. It is said to be the biggest, arguably the biggest socio-political data that this country has ever gathered in respect of these matters. Now that the two contenders for the election 2024 are known, this constitution issue will be a major issue that both of them will face, and they all admit that there's a need for some constitutional amendment. John Mahama has hinted at certain portions of the Constitution, including ex gratia and the rest of them, that he will focus on. Baumia admits that the group that held the major protest of the year have genuine concerns, and that will be attended to. The biggest motivation for the demonstration, as preached by the organizers, has been an overhaul of the Constitution. Did you know that there is already a Constitution Review Consultative Committee in place by the government under the aegis of the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs? Now, get to meet them and let's hear what they are doing, whether what they are doing is something we can buy into, and what support we can give if we have to. In the meantime, the last time we discussed the Constitution Review, I gave you some constitutions. If you're driving, this way in front of Joy FM, just drop in and ask for a copy. This time, very limited. So come by and pick a copy of the Constitution and read Article 41(2) for yourself and be collectively responsible for what is happening to the country. So, first, chairperson of the CRCC, Claraberry Kasati, who is also with the CDD. So, how did you come by this committee in the first place?
Well, in my own case, the first time I heard about the committee was when my dean sent me a WhatsApp message and said that the majority leader, through the auspices of the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, is setting up this committee that will have institutional representation. And then he said the University of Ghana School of Law is one of the institutions that would be part of this committee, and then he said, Clara, I'm not asking you whether you want to go or not. I'm saying you are going. And didn't give me an opportunity to respond to whether or not, but yes, so yes, the first time I got to know about it was when Professor Raymond Atuguba sent me that WhatsApp message and said, from the School of God, you will represent the University of Ghana School of Law on this committee.
Prof is not known to be autocratic, so what is going on? All right.
So yes. So here I am on. That's the first time I got on the committee. Then of course the communication started, and then at the end of the day we have 12 institutions. So we have the University of Ghana School of Law, we have the NCCE, we have ACET, we have the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, we have the National Media Commission, we have the Judiciary, we have the Audit Service, we have the Ghana Bar Association, and we have the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General's Department. We have SHRAJ, we have the NDPC, the National Development Planning Commission, and then we have the Parliamentary Service. So what happened was that all of these institutions freely decided who they wanted to represent them on the committee, and they sent the person on the committee.
Right.
So the majority leader inaugurated the committee, and then the committee had its first meeting, and then the committee elected me as its chair for this job. So the committee is non-partisan. Because as I noted, it's institutional representation. Yes. Okay. It is also independent. Since we've started work, nobody has given us instructions.
The institutions again are the University of Ghana School of Law, the NCCE, the Africa Center for ACET, the MOPA, that's the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, NMC, Judiciary, Audit Service, the GBA, this is Ministry of Justice and Attorney General, the SHRAJ, the NDPC, very important, and Parliamentary Service. Thank you. Please go on.
Yes. So yes, and consultative. So people made submissions to the committee on what they want to look at since at least after the CRC report. So we've considered these submissions, and the way the committee operates is by consensus. So we consider the submissions, look at the recommendation of the CRC report, look at what has been overtaken by events, or is there a more efficient way of doing things. So in short, we all agree that it's been 40 years since we've been operating the 1992 Constitution. So what we did was to do a clause by clause consideration of the committees, the Constitution. And then the interesting thing you realize is that there are some of the things that we complain about, but when you actually go to the text of the Constitution, you realize that the solution we are prescribing is actually what is in there already. And yet it is just the way we have operationalized it that is the problem. But there were certainly some of them that required for us that requires a review of the text of the material.
So you say that you received inputs.
Yes.
Which you have reviewed and you are incorporating into what you are doing. What we know, for example, about the CRC, the Constitution Review Commission that was set up in 2010, was that they did, a nationwide process and received submissions from all sorts of places. They went to chief justices, former chief justices. They went to presidents, former presidents. They also held, consultations and so on. Even went beyond the country to, consult with Ghanaians abroad, and eventually brought the 100,000-page document, and they gave us 41 entrenched provisions that needed to be amended, and then 57 non-entrenched provisions. When you say you received inputs that you're working with, how did you go about that?
So the report, our first document is the report. What did the CRC report recommend?
Okay.
Now after, it's been, I think the report was in 2011.
That's correct.
So that's been more than 10 years since the report was made. So obviously some of the things would have been taken by events. So some people have made proposals post the CRC report. So what we do is we look at the proposals they've submitted, we look at what is in the CRC, what the CRC recommended, and then we decide whether or not the text is fine as it is, or the recommendation from the CRC report should be maintained, or whether there's a new suggestion that comes forward. So for example, if you look at the solution that the CRC report recommended for Article 71, for example, was to set up an emoluments commission. And then, of course, then it would do the determination. So we came up with a proposal, including submissions we've received, that rather than create another body, just leave the committee, just that this time, rather than do it every year, the committee comes up with a formula, and that is it. So once you have a formula, you now input the ingredients into the formula. It will tell you how much, just like the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has a formula for public sector workers and all of that. So what the committee should be doing should be a one-term formula. Maybe periodically like 10 years, you want to look at the formula again, fine, but we should be dealing with a formula rather than setting up committees that we have to pay and have to think of salaries and all of that. So you see that this is something that would have been overtaken by events, because you know, even after this, we also had the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. It's worked up to some time. Let's strengthen our institutions. So let's see what institutions we can bring. TUC, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Audit Service, again, institutions come together, determine a formula, and we use it. We have the petroleum formula, for example, so we don't have to each time go back and then set up a committee to decide petroleum pricing. We use a formula. So let's do a similar thing for the formula. So in short, what this committee does is to look at the proposals and submission post the CRC.
And this sounds a more progressive approach. Instead of setting up an emoluments commission that will be paying,
we'll pay salaries.
The appointment to who should become there will become another fight.
And Secretariat.
We should just have one formula set up, and that's it. Either we amend it from time to time.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's it. And
so that a president doesn't come and then before they're exiting office, they set up an emoluments committee.
Exactly.
They determine their, benefits.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Something. So something like. So this is a very rich document, and that we are working with. And like we said, we are looking at post the CRC. The other issue that we have to consider is that, look, when the 1992 Constitution was being passed, it came as a whole document. So it was presented at a referendum. You did not have the opportunity to say, I like Articles 1 to 20, I don't like Article 15, I don't like Article 16. You either took the whole document or you leave it. That's how we came by the 1992 Constitution. And like we all agree, constitutions are living documents. Along the line, as a people, we might outgrow certain aspects. So the Constitution itself provided room for amendment. The other thing we have to realize is that it is not possible under the Constitution that we have. We have amendment procedures. We cannot take an entire document like this again and go back for a referendum and say, take it or leave it, because I might like some of the recommendations, I might not like the other recommendations. The nature of the Constitution, what the Constitution itself has provided is that I should determine that before any I is dotted on the Constitution, or before any word is taken out of the Constitution, it should be clear. So if it is entrenched, the provisions are clear that it has to go to a referendum. If it is not entrenched, of course, Parliament can deal with that. So for the entrenched clauses, if we are going to go for a referendum and we really want to have practice democratic values, the people should be able to understand every amendment we are asking them of. This is not going to be possible if you lump 56 amendments together, or even 15 or 10 amendments together and tell the people that vote, because the people have to vote on each one of them.
That's right.
So what this committee will do is, after we've now, of course, done the consultations, because as the name suggests, it's consultative, and agreed finally on the recommendations that we want, we also provide a roadmap. That one, we categorize them. These are the entrenched, these are the ones that fall within entrenched provisions. These are the non-entrenched provisions. So that the non-entrenched provisions, Parliament can see, and we can even recommend. Parliament, we think these are the ones that if you start with, they can make profound changes. With the ones for referendum, similar. we can't take all the amendments to referendum at the same time. We should have a roadmap, and the roadmap should include which ones we can start with. One first will be how many should we go with at a time?
Yes, hold on. These are the members. So you see Clara first, Ms. Anthony Forson, junior member, Yabwe Dwayebuafo member, Dr. Kojo Esiem, Mensa Abrampa member, Mr. Dixon Chinebua Kodia. Then you have Mrs. Mercy Labi, a member, Mr. John Nwoza, who joins us now, Mr. Victor Brobe, Professor John Asafwaje, Justice Yoni Kolendi, that will be representing the judiciary, Mr. Alfred Chiayebua, representing Attorney General, Minister of Justice, and Nana Teria Ochre will be representing Parliament or Parliamentary Service. Right. Okay. So those are the members. We're just showing you. You can follow us now. Please go on.
Yes. So the guiding principles, for example, of this committee is, first of all, if you make a submission, does it belong in a constitution? I always say that constitutions are not manuals. Mm-hmm. So we have to have an understanding of what a constitution is and whether what we want to see belongs in a constitution or it belongs in an act, a regulation, or a political party constitution. Then if it belongs in the constitution, does the current provision achieve that effect? If the current provision doesn't achieve that effect, is it consistent with the clear values of the Constitution? And then, of course, we look at efficiency and all of that. So what this committee is doing is putting together everything post the CRC, and like I said, starting with the recommendations of the CRC, looking at where we are after the CRC, with the sole objective being that we want to come out at the end of the day with recommendations for a report that will show us where we are 12 years since the CRC report, where we want to be in our democratic journey, and recommend a constitutional framework that puts us in a position to pursue the Ghanaian aspiration for democracies. That is what constitutions can do. And as I've said in public fora all the time, constitutions don't have legs. They don't have arms. They can give you a tool to work with, guaranteeing respect for everybody, and then the rest of it has to be done with various institutions, right, including all of us.
We are just sharing with our audience your mandate clearly stated in there. But you say that you are not supposed to redo or undo what the Constitution Review Commission did. So you are still getting new input into that. You'll be undoing some of it, just like we have just been shown. The Emoluments Commission that was proposed, you are undoing it.
Yes, it's it's semantics.
Right.
Some will say it's a review of it because it's maintained, but it is reviewed. But even before I go to your comments, Samson, I have a preliminary point that I would want to forcefully state.
Please go ahead.
That is the topic for today. Propping up a failing democracy. I have serious objections to it. I do not think our democracy is failing. We as a people are failing. There are deep cracks within the system, deep divisions as to political affiliation, etc., leading to cultures of silence. But the democracy itself is not failing. Look, as we sit now, people are looking up with relish to the 2024 elections. Not so. Mm-hmm. The Electoral Commission of Ghana has conducted successful elections from 1992 with all its modifications up till now. Indeed, there's a section of people in Ghana who believe that the current administration has done so well that it should break the 8. There's another section which believes that the government has not done enough and must be changed. So I think that the fundamentals are there, that we all wish to continue in this political light. And I agree with His Excellency the President in the first tape that came up, that we've practiced all forms of systems, and we believe that democracy with all its flaws is the best way to go. So I do not think that the democracy is failing. No. So it's a point I want to make as to your choice of today.
We're speaking to the data and the survey, Safro Barometer and the rest of them.
Correct.
Trust in public institutions is at the worst ever. Christopher Nyanivi and Richard Fosu of Monash University, Melbourne, have recorded in a recent academic publication that they did, and we shared this, myself and Mami, the last time we did a discussion on that the pride and euphoria that greeted independence from colonial rule in the late 1950s through the 1960s was short-lived, and many African countries plunged into decades of political instability, socioeconomic stagnation and crisis, and even civil wars. The causes included lack of democratic participation and peaceful transfer of power. Now, if we recall the rebel movements and the bloody coups of the 80 successful ones, there have been 80 successful coups, 108 failed coup attempts, and 139 plots in sub-Saharan Africa alone between 1956 and 2001. Last year, there was a wave of coups, and it is predicted that this will continue. The general cry that citizens are not happy because the dividends of democracy have not been delivered makes constitution review an imperative. This is the fact with the people, that the democracies are failing.
I still disagree.
Okay.
It is not the democracy which is failing. It is the people themselves who are failing. And the people means from the child in the class 5 elections up to the top. India has the biggest democracy, hasn't it? Has there been a coup there? Never.
By Chairman's verdict, as we just heard,
yes,
the democracy is failing.
Well, that is Chairman's verdict.
We have a monarch, not a president.
That is Chairman's verdict, and he's entirely entitled to it. Very brilliant man.
All right.
But I disagree. And that is the fundamental law which says that he has the right to freedom of conscience, thought, and belief. That's what he believes.
Right.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think that our democracy is on track. The institutions are failing. The people are failing the institutions. The people are failing to hold the leaders accountable. But as the president said, it is the best form with all its flaws, and I agree. So let's move from that premise that, look, it will get better. And I would ask you that if you listen to Daddy Lumba's latest song, he said that no matter what happens, even before your dying day, you wear the crown. So let us have the hope and work towards that hope. If you look at the preamble of the Constitution, it is all there.
Right.
So let us work, with positivity rather than the negativity.
Right. So now we have been introduced to the committee, the composition of the committee, and we are looking at the ways you are working, and we are told about how you are working in consensus.
Yes.
And how you vote on contested areas if there are. Yes. So what have you been able to do over this period?
Yes, as Clara indicated, and before I even proceed, I have been blessed by my country because I happen to be the youngest member of the Consultative Assembly, which put this constitution together. So I have the institutional...
Justice Brobe told us about that at Legon last week.
Okay, yes.
He mentioned that you were the youngest.
I was the youngest, actually.
In that committee. So the committee that brought up the 1992 Constitution.
Yes.
He was there.
I was the youngest. So with Osafo Mafon and Oto Sribo and all those people. So I have all the institutional memory. Right. So I remember plenty of the things that went into the thinking. So when we take it clause by clause, and I'll be honest, I missed only one sitting of that Consultative Assembly because when I was unmarried, I was not a lawyer. So I attended every meeting except one when I went to the hospital. Okay. So I remember every clause and sometimes even the people who made presentations. So when we take it clause by clause, because I have that link between what actually went in and the new thinking with the committee, it actually facilitates.
Let me ask you about this comparatively.
Yes.
From what we heard from Justice Brobe and Justice Amono
Money,
yes, who were all part of that committee.
Yes.
In fact, they shared their lived experience with the situation with us, and it was so refreshing. That consultative committee was huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yours is rather small.
Yes.
There were the market women.
Yes.
And all of those other people, fishmongers and all the rest. You guys are institutions represented by the institution's best.
Yes, let me explain. That huge committee, Consultative Assembly, produced the Constitution. Then we move from there to the CRC, which has a 1,000-page document. So we are distilling the findings of the CRC with the CRCC. So there's a wealth of knowledge available with all what Chief Minister Bonsu has said, what other findings have been. So we are distilling and trying to get the perfect document to help us as to fund attending.
So you don't necessarily need that kind of organization.
We don't. The Constitution is a living document. So having lived it up to this point, we see where we have fallen short and try to perfect it.
Right.
Yes.
So we'll do consultations as well. So once we finalize, before we finalize and come out with our final report, we would have presented the findings and the recommendations to people to provide their inputs.
Right.
Yes.
Before we bring others to join us to discuss what you are doing, you have already taken us to some of the recommended proposals that you are looking at. And I'm hoping that through this platform, we can get you feedback.
Yes.
Clara just spoke about the emoluments, commission that was proposed, and you appear to bring a superior, approach to it. Then there is NDPC Article 71 office holders, whether there should be a cap on the ministers, president paying tax or not paying tax. There should be a cap on constituencies. It's an issue that is invoked now.
In fact, interestingly,
what are you guys saying?
We are even talking about removal of all deputy ministers.
Really?
Yes.
What's the basis for that suggestion?
We are cutting down the size of government.
So we cap the ministers. Our recommendation is to cap ministers at 25.
25.
Not more than 25. Ghana doesn't need more than 25 ministers to run.
Interesting.
Revolutionary.
25 ministers.
Yes. No deputy ministers.
No deputies.
No. And it's capped.
Yes.
It's not in a situation like where Akufo-Addo, surprised all of us. 126 ministers.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And constituencies too should be capped. Now we have already have
275 with the possibility of 276 with SAL.
Exactly.
Yes. And there has been a debate that we have known for a long while now that people were actually lacing their boots for a total of 25 new constituencies to be created.
The EC has come out to say that
yes, I get it.
Only one.
Yes, I get it. Yeah. You are saying it should be capped.
It should be capped. We don't need more than 277 constituencies.
So for Parliament, you are not asking for a reduced number. You want it to stay at where it is.
It's almost impossible. It will be very difficult to reduce it. If we say that, let's reduce it. I mean, the acrimony. So which one will be the lesser evil? Cap it.
Cap it. But the interesting point is the deputy ministers.
Yes.
All will go.
Why?
Regional ministers too, all will go.
Oh. So, to be frank with you, I saw one of that proposal.
Yes.
But I thought it was a typo. No. Deletion of regional ministers. I thought. Okay, so explain to us what's going on. This is so dramatic.
The Constitution is a living document. We are living it. And having lived it so far, we think we can do away with certain positions. Now, we see Honorable Chief Minister Bonsu, when he came and the chairperson gave him the brief of what we have done, he expressed shock. Oh, really? Why? You see, we are coming from a thinking that once political power is achieved, as the chairperson said, winner takes all. Some people say there must be job for the boys. But the point is, do we really need them as a country? We have a slew of civil servants up to chief directors. who can equally do the job and sometimes even better. Sometimes ministers, some are very smart, they get there and they land on the job. But most of the work is done by these civil servants. So let's be realistic, come back to the drawing board and say that, look, we don't need all this. Let us have a conversation bipartisan and let's move on that way.
I'll tell you this, our viewers are beginning to jubilate over, because what you are actually proposing is further, far-reaching than what we heard Chairman Sabo to talk about. Yes. People are very interested in the NDPC and the fact that the country doesn't have a standing, development plan. So any political party comes in, they do what they want, they leave what was being done, waste. What's your view on that?
The NDPC, the truth is that if we take the NDPC as it is in the constitution right now, should it stand? My answer is no, absolutely, we don't need it. So if you ask me the composition of the NDPC and the kind of work that it does right now, we are actually better off. It's just throwing good money after bad, because we all agree that when one government leaves, the next government doesn't want to touch anything that the NDPC has done. They've done great work. It's not about the quality of their work, but what do political parties do with it? But generally, the people also agree that we do need a body that is able to measure our national situation, capture our national vision, and then at least give out what we need to do. Something, for want of a better word, a plan. We can call it whatever we want, but we need as a body that is able to capture our national vision and then be able to measure and tell us in terms of the resources that we have or what. So what we are asking to do is to take another look at the NDPC. So one, we are recommending a recomposition of the NDPC. And the recomposition of the NDPC is to make it more inclusive, to make it more national in character, and to include all the sectors of the Ghanaian society. So it will also have institutional representations. So like the labor unions, for example, academia, expertise from several, including all political parties. Political parties too should have reps on the NDPC, and we are recommending that rather than leave it to an act of parliament as the CRC had proposed. We are saying that when it comes to the political party representation, just set it that any political party that gets more than 5% in national elections is entitled to nominate a person to the...
It doesn't matter if they have representation in parliament.
If they are able to get up to 5% of the national election. The reason why we are not limiting it to parliamentary representation is that if we look at the history of our country, a lot of the time we've had just two political parties in parliament a lot of the time. So to give more opportunity to political parties, to smaller political parties to have representation on the NDPC, we think that if a political party is able to get up to 5%, we leave it to the public. If the public wants to reduce the percentage further or increase the percentage, that is fine. But we are looking to be able to capture as many political parties on it as well. And then it would be their job to now come up with this broad vision or broad framework or broad plan. And it will also be their job to periodically monitor it and give a report to Parliament. And of course to all of us to tell us where we have reached. This will also provide information for the electorate in the sense that the electorate knows to what extent each political party that has formed government at a particular point in time is able to do. And we want the plan or the broad vision to be binding in such a way that Parliament will, once Parliament approves it, if anybody wants to, even if Parliament wants to take another look at it, you need a certain threshold of votes to be able to look at it. So it should be binding in a nature, and we should have an inclusive body that is able to tell us where our national situation, what our national situation is. Thank
you very much. We are having an interaction with the chairperson of the Constitution Review Consultative Committee set up under this government at the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, which is also using the Constitution Review Commission's document and other proposals that have come since then to seek to further refine the proposals towards a review of the Constitution. And you have heard the far-reaching recommendations that they have, including capping ministers, 25. We thought, okay, we're going to hear your views soon. And Oliver Mame Mensah-Bonsu will share their views on these from where they also sit. We will have John Ewoza, who is member of this committee, to tell us what is it that they want to do about Article 71 office holders. And they seem to be saying the president should pay tax. What is informing that? Hello, John, are you with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Yes. You are the audit man. You would have been doing the numbers as far as accounting processes are concerned. What is it that you are seeking to do with Article 71 office holders and the president, whether or not he should pay tax?
Thank you, and thank you for the viewers. What we are looking at in terms of the Article 71 as a committee is that, one, this issue of the end of service, how do you even call it?
Ex gratia. Right.
Yes, that they give it to them. That has become a topic that everybody is discussing. Actually, if you look at it critically, it's the way we compute it. That is why people are talking about it. And we have proposed that people come to office at the beginning of the year, for instance, like the parliamentarians, their salaries are not determined from day one. But their salary, they take the salary of the previous MPs. So at the end of their term, they now form a commission or a committee to determine their salary. And that is why the SSs or the arrears are paid with some form of this things, and that form this ex gratia that we always talk about. So we are looking at if salaries will be determined from day one when they assume office, as soon as they are nominated as MPs, so that at the end of the day, if something small is given to them, it will not look so big that people may think that, oh, they are taking sums of money home, then that this will also go down a little. So that's what the committee is looking at. Then when it comes to the payment of tax, if you look at our Income Tax Act, 2015 Act 896, if you go to Section 7, it exempts the president from paying tax on his salaries and allowances. The committee is looking at this situation. We are all talking about revenue. And as a first gentleman of the land, we are proposing that, as is always said, that leader by example, our presidents should pay tax. That is our proposal. So that the market woman that is down there, that every day we see the people going there to harass them, pay tax, pay this, they will be motivated that, oh, if our first gentleman on the land is paying tax, then how much more we? So that is the proposal that we are making. And if Ghanaians accept and they approve of it, I think it will go a long way to increase our revenue base. So that the idea that somebody who is any salary, we are talking of salary, and is not paying tax, will be over. You look at the situation too that people end their, still on the Article 71, whether people should end their tenure and we still have to vote for them. I believe that everybody will take that mantle as the first gentleman already may have a place to live. Why should the state also waste resources to also build another house for the person? And these are some of the things that the committee has proposed. And we believe that at the end of our work, when we bring it before the Ghanaian public, and whatever they also agree, we'll be cool to go with it. So that is what the committee is saying in the area of taxation for the president.
All right. Thank you very much. I will take a quick break, and then when we return, we'll hear briefly from those who are not members of this committee and who have such experience and expertise in these processes. Hear their views on some of the things that they have seen this committee want to do so far. We will end on the note of how to get there. I think that's the most important question. How to get there. Will their work also not be shelved, as has happened previously? Now, Kwame Esiedu Sapon says, cap ministers are 25. Remove deputy ministers and regional ministers. If the constitution is reviewed to reflect this as being suggested, Samson, I will begin to take our democracy serious again. Then, Kweku Enchibwe Siakon says, hooray, I told you, we can do with less than 20 ministers. Here we are. And he shares with me his views that he shared some time ago, making those suggestions. Eraba Bediako says that, I'm enjoying today's program and even tearing. Ghana has to rise up. It will take me and you to make it beautiful, not NDC or NPP. National plan, very important, and I like the way Clara stated it. No party should present manifestos to us. They are full of lies. Okay, so I was going to mention this person's name, but it will not be necessary. Is a significant person in the realm. He says, most deputy ministers are not effectively used or assigned important duties by their substantive ministers. Most deputy CEOs of state institutions are unnecessary, and some hardly do anything. Some state institutions have performed excellently with a single CEO without any deputies. Thank you very much. I've many comments. I'll share them with you when we come back. Anderson says, this is not as dramatic as I sound about it. This is 21st century, optimal use of scarce resources. This is fantastic news that we are being told. Thank you. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem. In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh, yeah. Then my chick to him, I know correct. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now, so stylish frames in the wrong.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Osudangwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, send my way,
My name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Prepare for an exhilarating experience at the main fair of the 2023 EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. Join us at the Accra International Conference Center from Thursday, November 23rd to Sunday, November 26th, 2023. Doors will be open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day to welcome you. This year, we are diving into the theme of home ownership, exploring the nuances between affordability, comfort, and luxury. Whether you're embarking on your home ownership journey or looking for upgrades, this fair is your destination for all things housing. Encounter a comprehensive assembly of stakeholders from Ghana's housing and construction sectors. Engage the experts across the spectrum of home creation and enhancement. The EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the Planned City Extension Project from Cities and Habitats. Rent to own. And sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Constructions Limited, where quality meets value. Global Lighting, your solution to quality lighting. Syntex Tank, Air Strong, Air Tough. Springfield Estates, where dreams are built. Virtual Security, complete security solution. DBS, your roof experts. Virtual InfoSec Africa, security solutions by design. Saint Gobain, making the world a better plan. Clifton Homes, beautiful homes, wise investments. The Kissington Heights, Airport City, Kumasi, by HDG Homes Limited. Home creation and enhancement. The EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the Planned City Extension Project from Cities and Habitats. Rent to own. And sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Constructions Limited, where quality meets value. Global Lighting, your solution to quality lighting. Syntex Tank, Air Strong, Air Tough. Springfield Estates, where dreams are built. Virtual Security, complete security solution. DBS, your roof experts. Virtual InfoSec Africa, security solutions by design. Saint Gobain, making the world a better plan. Clifton Homes, beautiful homes, wise investments. The Kissington Heights, Airport City, Kumasi, by HDG Homes Limited.
About 1/3 of a million people live with HIV in Ghana. Close to 10,000 of them die each year, mostly as a result of a lack of antiretroviral drugs and adherence. In fact, close to 57% of children under 14 years living with HIV do not receive antiretroviral drugs, again as a result of inadequate funds to provide them with medication.
Life expectancy for these children is grim. The big worry, close to 16,300 people are newly infected with HIV each year. With this alarming rate of HIV infections, all of us are in danger, and Ghana is headed for an epidemic explosion if nothing is done now to avert it. While the Ghana AIDS Commission is working hard to overturn the situation, the Commission urgently needs funding support from corporate Ghana and individuals to save lives. We're therefore appealing to you, corporate entities and individuals, to support the National HIV and AIDS Fund by dialing star 9898 hash on MTN and Vodafone and follow the prompts, or pay into the National HIV and AIDS Fund account number 101-863-161-3233 Bank of Ghana. Your donation will be used to prevent new infections and provide care for people living with HIV, including children affected by AIDS. For further information, please call Ghana AIDS Commission on 0302 919260 or email info@ghanaids.gov.gh. Give to save a life today. Ghana AIDS Commission, partnering to eliminate HIV and AIDS.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Stops until the job is done. Turn your home and business into an internet highway and experience the revolution of working and playing without limits. Visit broadband.mtn.com.gh to sign up for MTN Fiber for home and business today.
Ekapenu eya enunti na metufu se abibere otadia tadia unsa nkoto no mprelu na mekanfo SCP ama SCP ewo tema shahel ehwo na factory kese no esi enye na apɛ pavement blocks ankasa na die edisi dem biara no okɔ shahel SCP ebema obi se upese usiu dan na apɛ ogu concrete enya funa akoto cement akopa bo akopa nwia ofre SCP a the concrete ya messing that with quality cement warm on the good kama amount so whatever afienya dodowa aflawo bon any patem woni nara your office I was Printers Road ya ni papaya restaurant in the dimfedimu
for SCP was 0501 672 608 and our toll free number 0800 626 26.
Okay. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. It's brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. And one of their professors is with us, and you are telling us that you just love her courage and boldness and clarity of thought on the issues that she has spoken about so far. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 years. Duraplast, producers of quality PVC and HDPE pipes. And water tank, the only water storage tank with a level indicator. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie. My Way, dial star 165 hash on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex tanks, it's strong, it's tough. Flamingo paints, simply superior. Seed, self-employed enrollment drive. It's your future, so own it. You don't have to be in public employment or some private employment. If you are self-employed, if you are in the market, employing yourself, so to speak, you can put some money aside for when it will be necessary. Hoptel is everything you and Doormasters. Now, before we continue, let me just share these messages with you. Kweku Inchibwe comes back to me and he shared a document where he proposed that there could be 20 ministers, and you are capping it, and people are so excited, ecstatic about it. So he wants me to share his document with you.
So anybody who submits, yes, very, very welcome. So we take, of course, we don't believe that we don't have all the knowledge in the world. So we are specifically doing this because we want people to share their views and their opinions with us. And it's a national affair. So everybody who is interested in our nation and has views to share can share their views, including documents. Once we will take the document from you, and we are very grateful, Entry Bosiako. We are very grateful that you are sharing your ideas with us.
So Kweku, I understand you can share it through Current Constitution Review GH@gmail.com.
Or even send it to Newsfile.
Okay. Current Constitution Review GH. One word. Current Constitution, not constitutional. Constitution Review GH@gmail.com, and they will take it. Angela Jamnabwaji says, great news from the members of the committee. Raised hope. The icing on the cake will be how do they envisage that their proposals will be accepted. What's the plan? And that's what I say we are reserving for the last. John Hall says, the CRCC recommendations are excellent. Please, what are their positions on the following? With the capping of ministers to 25, I hope they will not be selected from Parliament. Okay? The voting of MMDCEs, the President should only appoint the boards of SOEs, and the board should appoint its CEO. Do you share that view? That's what is being suggested. Alhaj Suleiman says, wow, I'm really excited to hear these far-reaching reforms. Samson, in my conversation with you last time, I mentioned the cost of governance and organizations of our public institutions as one of the biggest challenges we have as a country. About 73% of tax revenue go into emolument as a result of the elephant size of governance architecture. If reduced, as being proposed by the CRCC, governance will be less costly and there will be fiscal space for doing many good things for our citizens. Okay, I'll just read maybe two more and then I'll bring in Mame and Oliver. This one says, Yakubu Ibn Chambers, I have not been presented with the opportunity to put in my post recommendations on the outcome of the CRCC, this is not CRC, CRCC's work. I humbly suggest a cutting down and capping of everything in the Constitution. All right, so send your views to Current Constitution Review GH@gmail.com. As we understand, there's a time coming that they will come to the public. They are not at that point yet. The last one says, I'm following the arguments on Newsfile on the work of the CRCC. Kudos to Madam Clara and her team. Thank you, Samson, for producing good content to your viewers and listeners on a weekly basis. Thank you very much. That's all we are here to do for you. This is coming from Sadiq. I'll end the messages here. They're just coming in so thick and fast. Okay. So, yes, let me start with you, Mami. What you are hearing and what's your assessment of this committee and what they are doing? Are they on the right path? Are there some things they are looking at that you would wish can be looked at differently, particularly from your expertise as a constitutional theorist?
Thank you, Samson. Before I address your question, can I take a minute to make some preliminary comments?
Please go ahead.
The first, I would like to very respectfully respond to Senior Forson on the idea of a failing democracy. the comment he made about the democracy is not failing, we are failing as the people. We are the demos of the democracy. A democracy is nothing without its demos. So it is not possible for the demos to fail and the democracy to be doing well. So if we accept that the demos is failing, then we must accept that the democracy is failing. I have no desire to live under a monarch or a dictator. So I do not have any, I will never be caught advocating any other method. But it doesn't mean that what we have right now is not failing. What it is we must talk about what we have and assess whether it is sufficient and what we need to do to fix it. It may be that it is only failing because of the demos, but if that is the case, then it is failing and we must talk about it. The second preliminary comment I'd like to make is about the idea of log rolling, which Clara commented on. And I'm very glad to hear the CRCC is opposed to it. So log rolling is when they present a bundle of terms to you and you have to vote yes or no. I have a simple explanation for the people why this is bad and why we must, under our Article 41 obligation, resist every effort to have a log rolling referendum. I want you to think, is anybody listening to your show who would answer yes or no to this question? Would you like a Rolex, a Ferrari, a pile of cow dung and a burger? Who can answer this question as a yes or no? And so we must resist every effort to bundle provisions when we do a referendum on constitutional review. And then finally, I want to comment on the idea that some of the CRC recommendations have been overtaken by time. It's only been a decade. If a constitution is going to live, it must live long enough to shape its people. So if there are recommendations that a decade later are no longer viable, it means they weren't thought through well. So I would echo a word of caution to the CRCC to ensure that their recommendations don't suffer such a fate. 10 years is a very short time for a recommendation not to be viable at a constitutional level. That said, I have read the preliminary document that they sent out, and I have to say, between the document and the committee members' submissions, I'm quite inspired that this report will bring some really good material out that could help us streamline and improve the Constitution. I'd like to make a few really quick comments about specific things. The first is the NDPC, and I was very glad to hear Clara say she thinks what we have right now is absolutely unnecessary. I go further. I don't think NDPCs are necessary at all. A constitution, I'd like us to think of a constitution as a story build, a legal order as a story building, and the Constitution as its foundation, and all the other laws as different levels and pillars. You have to be careful how frequently you touch your foundation, or your whole building will come falling down. So a constitution must change, but none too easily. So we should be careful about it being a living document and requiring change. It is a foundation. It must stay solid and stable.
And both of them in the studio here are nodding in agreement to the statement you just made.
I'm glad to hear that. So my problem with NDPCs is that we have agreed on a system where the people will come to us and tell us how they plan to make our lives better. And then based on what they tell us, we make a choice. That's what the democracy is. An NDPC is a third group that is going to determine, based on whatever factors, I'm not even going to exclude the possibility that they are better at it than the general populace would be. But there's no point in elections if we have a plan and we just need people to come and implement the plan. There's no point in it. I think self-government is a continuing responsibility. If governments come and abandon projects and go and another person comes, that's where the people's job in the democracy comes in. What are we basing our electoral choices on? So an NDPC will not save us. It will be another one of the many secretariats that we set up, but you can't solve any country's problems by secretariats. So we have to, at some point, take responsibility for the development trajectory of the country and let the people actually do their job as the people. So I was glad to hear that Clara didn't think that the current NDPC is necessary, but I don't think an NDPC is necessary at all. I think the people must go up and do our job. On the Independent Emoluments Committee, I was so happy to hear the CRC's view that we don't need another secretariat, and I think they have come up with a great method for keeping it effective. My only question is, I'm not so sure that our public officers are entitled to an automatic review of their salaries in a country where we don't have an automatic review of our salaries. So I'm not so sure that an emoluments committee is required at all, because I don't know that, I think it is a bad strategy to insulate your leaders from the experience of its citizens, because then our problems don't become your problems. So while I am very happy with the formula idea, I think we should really consider how we remunerate our public officers.
Right.
The executive of the places where the committee has done some really great work. I almost danced in joy when I saw the abolished regional and deputy ministers. I have long wondered what regional ministers do, why we have them. And I think removing the majority from Parliament is a great way of separating the institutions and allowing Parliament to do its job in a presidential system, which is to buy friction with the executive, check the executive. Again, on the president not paying tax, I saw a report once, I think it was an Emoluments Commission report, that said he was a guest of the state. And I was so offended. The first gentleman is a guest. Who is the citizen? Who is the householder? Whose house is it? The first gentleman is a guest? Who lives here? So I was very happy to hear them recommending that the president should pay tax.
Right. And just this bit about something they had on chiefs and their jurisdiction, right? And I thought that for someone like you, having looking at your work, the customary law and the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, a comparative theoretical study. And I said, you'll be the best person to share a view on what they seek to do with the chiefs.
I actually did not, I'm sorry, let me try to find the slide now.
Just hold on. Just hold on. What was your intention, or what is your plan with the jurisdiction, so-called, of whatever?
We're hoping that this would be on the chiefs would be for the next segment, because it's a bit of information so that people can take their time and then listen to it and give us their feedback.
Can we just get a sneak peek for now?
Okay.
Because we can't guarantee that we can get Mami the next time.
Okay. The sneak peek is that you know that the houses of chiefs deal with certain disputes. So what we are recommending is to add retired justices to their judicial panel to assist, because currently, of course, a lot of the issues that go there, even for customary law, as the name suggests, customary law is law. So we thought at least some of the retired justices could be part of the committee in the houses of chiefs, whether national, regional, and to help resolve disputes at the House of Chiefs.
Okay. I don't know, I mean, did you hear?
I did.
Okay.
And I thought that was a good recommendation, because one of the concerns I've had with the House of Chiefs and its judicial committee is that as a body made up of different chiefs, if you think about it, it means that there is disputes of, let's pick a constituency, a chieftaincy, let's say the Gonja traditional entity headed by the Yagbonura. Say there's a dispute in that entity, and the National House of Chiefs is adjudicating that. We basically have a system where several non-members of that entity are deciding finally the customary law of that entity. And it is not necessarily problematic, because we are trying to bring all these different entities into a single people under the Constitution. But it would be very helpful if a justice of the Supreme Court who is well versed in the methodology of the state, the principles of the state, and as I have argued many times, the nation state operates very differently from the traditional state. And so if the traditional state if there are disputes under the traditional state, are going to be resolved by a mechanism created by the nation state. It should have some way of ensuring that there's an alignment between both methodologies and aspirations and objectives. And I think a retired Supreme Court judge might be very helpful in ensuring that a customary law forum made up essentially of foreigners to the particular customary body that is being affected is at least being brought in line with the Constitution's method.
Thank you very much. John Osai-Kwapong, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong of the CDD says, I agree in principle that a constitution needs review every so often. Many lawyers don't share this view because we look at the American Constitution and others. But I often argue that constitutions need agency, individuals who make it come alive. Okay, that's Mame that I'm reading under there. Individuals who make it come alive. And until we have agents who are committed to making the Constitution come alive in positive ways, the cynic in me says no amount of constitutional review will produce the outcome we deserve. The key task is how do you incentivize the agents so their better angels prevail most of the time? And here too I hear Isankoma. Yes, Oliver, what's your feedback? Perhaps, let's say, critique of what you have heard or read the CRCC propose to do. I think Oliver's mic is muted.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Great, you are back.
I was saying that I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation and also the different views and perspectives that are shared. One of the things that I want to outline from the very go is that different strands of our society have different views in what direction we need to take a constitutional reform project towards. And those views are all valid. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to refrain from speaking directly to whether or not I agree with substantive proposals because they have certain views, but from a position or from the point of view of a constitution maker, talk about some of the things that they have to look out for as we're going to bring this into the general body of public discourse and how we're going to discuss them. I'm going to mention 5 points that I think are critical to the conversation. Before I do that, I want to first acknowledge, I haven't heard mention Ivio Dankwa, who led a Constitution Review Implementation Committee, which came right after the Constitution Review Commission, that they have done some work, particularly in terms of drafting the articles and providing a framework for implementing the recommendations. I know that KY Amwakun with Assets and I have worked tremendously and others as well towards this process, which has culminated in what the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs is housing. And I know that he has provided great leadership through the compact process and are the key partners of this journey. The 5 points I want to make, and I think that they need to account for, is 1, questions around internal consistency. Internal consistency of the proposals and also the reasoning behind them. So, for instance, I hear a suggestion that is going to be sort of application of formula. For instance, the formula comes in terms of the choice of 25 ministers. So, the thinking shouldn't just be about, well, we have 25, but what fed into the 25, and why did we settle on 25? Secondly, around Parliament, for instance, in terms of representation in Ghana and across the world, the number of MP to population, we have one of the lowest across the world. We have 102, roughly, if you take our population to be 31 million, so to round it off, we have about 112,000 people to 1 MP. It is one of the lowest in the entire world. I think India is around 400,000, the US is around 350,000 and others. The only one that surpasses us is maybe the UK with 650 ministers, which brings them to an average of 110,000. My thinking is that it is going to be formula that we don't just say, we have gone and say, well, we have 275, and so they're going to plan to create 2 new more, so let's cap it at 277. It doesn't demonstrate something that is well thought through. And I think that's some of the things that Mami was talking about, that shouldn't be overrun by time. If we went from the approach and said that we want for every 250,000 Ghanaians to be represented by 1 MP, it will bring the current composition of parliament down to 124. And we know that every time we gain we get 1 million Ghanaians, we gain 4 new MPs. In the popular mind, we have created some equity around the number of people that ought to be represented in our parliament and who is speaking for them. That way, it's the factors of determining how we review the membership of parliament that sustains for a longer period of time. So that in 25 years' time, when we have 500 million Ghanaians, or that something has changed around the composition of Ghana, the questions of representation are not answered by our constitution. It's kind of how I think about it. The question around formula for the Independent Emoluments Committee as their suggestion, the questions around equity of the Article 71 framework isn't responded to and answered by formula only. And I think that some of the questions around the fact that we have a Chief Justice who said they were sending text messages to people within the presidency to release funding that is to the judiciary, it's one of the things that fed into this idea of independence around emoluments generally. And those questions ought to be answered even if formula doesn't do it for you. The questions around the equity, I think Mami also mentioned about this idea of insulating a certain class of people from the economic realities of the society can create a dysfunction and can undermine faith in them. And so that if we have a process whereby we all are subject to single spine, everybody knows that we are all feeling the burn. And that is important in order to manage how society views those who lead them. So that's some of the questions of internal consistency I also want to address. Perhaps there's also one issue even around that on the proposals around the Judicial Committee of the National House of Chiefs. The proposal, as I understand it, is that you have to have a legal mind, a judge, who forms there. The proposal to have a retired judge of the Superior Court is one I have a problem with. The Constitution in its basically says that persons who have reached a certain age cannot serve within the regular judiciary. Then we say that as old as they are, and the Constitution determines that they should be retired, we should make them members of the Judicial Committee. We haven't achieved necessarily the objective of having legal minds. It can be persons who are nominated there, but who are also considered as part of the Superior Court, and doesn't unlimited by their retirement. So the retirement limitation, I don't really fully understand. But again,
in America, they serve a life term.
The second point I want to make.
In America, they serve a life term, right?
Pardon?
In America, they serve a life term.
Yes. In America, they serve a life term. If you're proposing a life term, then it has to, again, internally consistent with the way we view it.
Okay.
Even in fact, on the internal consistency, I noticed that the cap ministers, the cap parliament, but say they are not going to propose a cap for the judiciary. In fact, they are recommending divisions of the Supreme Court and to replicate the High Court. The High Court has 8 divisions. 8 divisions, if you have a panel of 5 per each which the Supreme Court requires, that's a minimum of 40 members of the Supreme Court. Again, these are questions that you need to be able to continue to reason through because they're going to come up when it comes to the public. The second thing is the risk factors. When you cap ministers at 25, trust me, we are going to have for each minister 15 special advisors. You have to think through how do you tie the hands of the political class. You need to know the beast you're dealing with. If not, you'll be overrun by the way in which the system operates. And I understand that there's difficulties here because it's a committee that is working part-time. And they don't have a research team that is looking at what are the risk factors of every proposal. That is key before you send out a proposal, I think. Unless we can think around the framework of how we tie those in, we're going to create a problem in the long run. The other thing is around the president's appointing powers and we say ministers. Okay. One of the bigger challenges we have consistently is that if Chairman, for instance, is talking about the president appointing 6,000 people, which is a problem, the president's appointing of ministers of all these people does not evolve from the Constitution alone. There are less than 1,000 people appointed by the president directly under the Constitution. The vast majority, it is Parliament which is enlarging the powers of the president through these appointing mechanisms. You have to directly limit what Parliament does in expanding executive and appointing powers of the president. If you don't do that, we are going to move it from ministers and increase appointment on another end. The third thing is about procedure and methodology. So when you say, for instance, that you're going to do consultations, in order to build trust, the people need to be clear. Our consultation need to play within the framework of what you have chosen, or we can go beyond. And if our consultations change what you have recommended, what are you going to do about it? If you don't answer this question seriously, people are not going to trust that that consultative process is going to contribute to anything meaningful because you're coming to them with a mind made up. The third thing is about the process of prioritization of the issues. So I'm going to look at some of them. And when you remember, for instance, the Constitution Review Commission made 478 recommendations. Not all of them were constitutional. 264 were constitutional. There's a sense of prioritization that is coming up here. That they're not going to be that expansive and holistic in the review. But the process by which you go and choose what you're giving priority to is important. I know, for instance, that one of the recommendations is that the quorum of parliament ought to change. And instead of saying, apart from the person presiding, all members of parliament should form, 1/3 should form the quorum. We should change that to our quorum should be 1/3 of all the members of parliament. I think that because we're going to be focusing on prioritization, this issue has already been dealt with in Justice Abdullah. There's no controversy around them. Focus the time then on the big ticket issue so that it doesn't look like you're doing peripheral changing of language and tweaking here and there, and that doesn't really get to the substance of what the broad society is asking for. So that's the fourth one there. And the last one is about the political process. So in general trust in the process and what they're trying to do, people are going to be asking, like you have started, is this going to end up somewhere? We're going into election year. The election priorities will overrun, and it's likely to overrun recommendations that a political project of drawing people towards a referendum. And if after that, what happens? If you're going to tell the next government that reduce ministers to 25, it sounds like the situation where we've known in a political situation where people feel like proposals made in the final year where they say we have a lame duck president are intended to bind the executive, the next executive. And that can be a process that undermines commitment of all the political actors in the process. So those will be my 5 pointers.
Thank you very much. And we're going to plead with all of you that you make a commitment that we have taken just how many of the issues so that we have another opportunity to look at the rest of the other issues in a manner that the committees work. They are working with the public, giving them feedback constantly so that by the time they are coming for the public consultations, they have good feedback and know how to proceed with it. So we'll beg of you to make a commitment with us on Newsfile that the next time we can have all of you back. Now, the critical issue that is coming up, and I know maybe you will say we should be discussing this in the next time, but Prince Augustine Anto says, government white paper is laughing in the corner. Do you understand what he means?
Yes. Before I take that, let me answer to the issue of the jurisdiction of the House of Chiefs and the fact of retired justices. Sometimes we think that we need to be practical as to the context of our situation and, of course, our cultural values as well. We all know that retired Supreme Court judges definitely are of a certain age, so they would have been 70 and above. We know what age does, particularly if you are dealing with an institution like the National House of Chiefs. That is one. That's two.
So some level of respect.
Some level of respect. Okay. Two, the point that Mami raised, the experience and expertise that a retired Supreme Court judge, for example, would be bringing to help to harmonize our cultural laws and values in line with our Constitution. We don't want to go into sometimes the direct complexities and sometimes inefficiencies, particularly when it comes to land, the cultural issues, state law. So at least this helps us in a way to be able to streamline issues. That's one. And two, the retired Supreme Court judge, for example, is not looking for promotion. I mean, this is somebody who has served. They are not looking for promotion, so they have time to be able to bring their expertise, and of course, they are going to be part of the committee. So these are some of the things that informed the choice of a retired Superior Court judge. And also, we have a research team. So in due course, we would be making available who our research team are.
All right.
Yes.
So I was asking that question. Maybe Tony would like to attempt that. people are looking at the end from the beginning. That you may do a very fantastic job. And since you started giving us the broad strokes of the critical areas requiring review, on social media, on all our handles, people are just ecstatic. And even the quality of the people who are sending us messages, you know, it tells you that they're happy about this, but all of them are sounding one thing. How will it end?
Well, by the nature of our training, all three of us, by the nature of our training, we all don't speculate. But we look at what has been as precedent and try to gauge what will happen or what should happen. I believe that both the president and the leader of the opposition, and even my good friend Mr. Alan Martin, have all indicated that there's the need for us to improve the system. The president, in the skits that you played, has shown his commitment, and even by the setting up of this committee, has shown his commitment. The question is whether or not our recommendations will be accepted. So long as there's this bipartisan approach and a national, as the president will say, there's a national movement towards the views which will be encapsulated in our report, I believe that we'll all be bound somehow to accept it. Yes, the person who is cynical saying that government white paper is lurking in the corner. Yes, he has the right to have that cynical beliefs. But I believe that because of the broad nature of the consultation and the documents and the history that we've gone through, by the time we finish, I think there will be no doubt that that is the way we should go. And from the text messages that you are receiving, you see that there's a general belief that that is the way we should go. And I have no doubt that the good Lord will smile on all of us for us to accept that that is the way the country needs to go.
Thank you very much. We've just run out of time, so maybe the chairperson will have the last word. How are you doing this?
What's for God and country? That's what.
For God and country.
For God and country, we do the best that we can. We invite everyone else to join us in doing the best that we can because this is our country. We want the best for it because this is where we intend to live and enjoy our lives. So we want to create a country that we all want. So
I'm looking at lawyers and their precious dollar hours, and when they are looking at the time, they are looking at the money. And this is sacrificial work.
We haven't been paid a dime for all the work we've done so far. So this is not about.
For how long now?
Since was it since May or April?
Yeah, April.
Since April?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. But we keep going. So in fact, because of that, I should actually say that I really, really want to thank the committee for the members for the dedication. I have been inspired by all the members. As you can see, the membership on the board. Look at the caliber of people, look at even if you're looking at age, just look at the people, and all of these people have been so committed anytime we've had meetings to find the time, including research, to come and do this work for God and country. We are so grateful. Our research team has also been working tirelessly to get information, put together documentation that we need. So we are thankful to all of that, and certainly to the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs for all of the assistance that we've been getting to do this work so far.
Thank you very, very much. And
thank you, Samson, for bringing me out of.
Yes.